once it starts. Let me just do a quick check. Awesome. Okay. So just give me one last second for Twitter, because I'm also sharing with Evan. Okay, so now I'm completely fine and we can start. First of all, hi everyone. So as
Hello.
half of the people here I never met before, I would say we just do a super quick introduction. Basically, who are you? What are you doing? And the second thing is like maybe what you expect or what you're interested in contributing on Webpack. And yeah, that's it. And then we will move on. So, hi. Just see maybe my face. My name is Ferret. I am a front-end developer from Berlin, Germany, working for a company called Zalando. And thanks to the company being so big and having good connections to the Webpack people, I joined like half a year ago and helping basically on all the organization stuff for Webpack. Yeah, sometimes very pull requests, and right now just trying to get prompts and stuff in place. Yeah, and the second thing is, I don't know who has so many noise, but just I would say mute yourself, everyone, and then only if you really want to speak, just unmute. Otherwise, it will get hard. So cool. Then I would say maybe Sandal is next, just from what I see here. If he's here. Otherwise.
Hello, hi. Can you hear me?
Anyone? Yes.
Okay, hi. This is Sandal here. I'm a full stack developer, and I'm basically living in Netherlands at this moment, but I'm basically from India. And yep, so I'm out of my open source passion. I'm just trying to contribute to many open source projects. I'm happy to be here. That's it.
Cool.
Cool. I can go next. My name's Haziel Villasana. I'm a computer science student at Georgia Tech, the Georgia Institute of Technology in Atlanta, Georgia. I'm from Atlanta. And as I'm looking, I'll be graduating probably in the next year or so, and I'm looking at just like improving my skills, and especially with the web. I kind of found out how much I really love web development over the past like 6 months or so, and I'm trying to just get in on open source projects and be able to contribute back to the community. So trying to kind of ease my way in and find places where I can contribute.
Great. Then maybe, I don't know, Rishabh.
Okay, I'm Rishabh. I'm a first year student of IT and loves Webpack and JS. That's all.
Great. The next one I would just go with Sachin. I'm not sure how to spell it, but just.
Yeah, that's Sachin. Hi everyone, I'm Sachin. I'm in my final year of computer science and engineering, BTech, from NIT, one of the colleges in India. So I'm interested in to join Webpack because one of the posts from Dhruv actually inspired me, saying all the work you guys did in last year. So that made sense. So I think I'm in this. I want to be in Webpack for this year, GSOC. Yeah.
Perfect. Then you will be happy about the topics we will discuss. And the last one is Druftud.
Yep, so I did my GSOC with Webpack last year. I was working on the same project as you guys might work on. And I'm currently working as a software engineer for Trevor Hotels. And yeah, I'm just trying to contribute still to Webpack and just being around community, helping you guys. So I'm going to be a GSOC mentor this year. So let's see how it goes from in. But you guys seem to be quite excited about all the things. So yeah, let's start.
Perfect. So the idea today is to focus a bit on the Webpack UI topic again, but with the focus on basically Google Summer of Code, which is soon. Yeah. So the idea is also to just give a short overview about the past things we discussed, where you can find information and what it is basically about. So I would do that initially, and then later Rishabh, because he already did a lot of initial work on that topic, he will just continue. Most likely, I'm not sure if he's also part of the Google Summer of Code, but I guess he will contribute anyway. So
Yeah,
this would be
I
also
want
cool.
also I want to participate in JSOC too.
So perfect. So most likely you and others will work on that topic. So let me move on immediately on that. So what is this Webpack CLI UI people are talking about? It's basically, if you ever use the Webpack CLI, for example, you know that when you start with the init command, then you get just a couple of questions on the CLI, you answer them, and then you're done. You get the config file set up, and you're happy that you don't really need to care about the config.js. So the idea is, which is also inspired by Vue.js and their CLI UI for managing their scaffolding and all the features they have there. I never used it, but I saw some screenshots. We come up with the idea that for Webpack, especially for the CLI, it would really make sense to have something similar like they have. And so the idea right now is to start with basically the init command we have in the CLI and get a proper visual interface for that. So Rishabh already quite some time ago created a first screenshot. I hope everyone can see right now. It's all in the issue 654. So if you want to keep up later. So the idea is really having an initial interface, which here I have to admit on the design, we are still not sure yet. Rishabh has one proposal. 2 weeks ago, there were a couple of other people who wanted to contribute, which I need to follow up again. So right now, one of our problems or basically challenges is A, having some proper design in place, and B, once we have that design, working on getting especially the init functionality of the CLI into a visual interpretation or representation. Today I also tried to, so you will see there is a lot. So I would try to go basically a bit, so I wrote something, how I see it, how I understand it right now. So it's basically this one, where I see it more like, initially for the init command, it consists of two things. One, you start, for example, the Webpack init command, then the CLI, the UI pops up locally, and then you see basically something like this, where you want to open, create a new project, like here. And once you click on that, on create new project, the current question is, you will need to see something. There are already some UIs, which is like this create app dev, or for example, .config. So there are some websites, basically when you click around, like here, let me just zoom out. When I click around, then you see that they are just adding and removing stuff to the Webpack config. This right now is one option, but there is also the other idea, which, for example, Rishabh proposed, which I also like, is more like asking people just questions, like the CLI. So basically like a questionnaire. Instead of asking people to click on features they want, right now when you use the init CLI command, you will just get a couple of questions. Yes, some of them are binary questions like, do you need SaaS support? But I personally think it's better to have, like when you have a visual UI, like when you have a user interface, to really go maybe into that direction of asking questions and then giving people options. Yeah. And once that's done, then I would see the second part also to just give people. So one is you create a new project, so you have some initial start page, like a dashboard. The second thing is once you click on it, you get a questionnaire, or maybe like this initially, like something like this, maybe clicking around and seeing the dynamically changing your config, the Webpack config, or your project setting at all with all the files. And the second thing is then once they say, yes, create the project, we also need some visual representation of the progress. And I personally think here it would be also valuable, like in the CLI, to show what's currently going on. Like, okay, we are currently creating the folder structure, we are doing this, we are creating the files. Maybe even on the third step or on the second point here, really having just a CLI representation, like a nice UI looking like a CLI, showing people something is happening. So that's one big feature, and that's basically the init command. And the second thing, I think, which should be definitely part and we should think about now, is managing projects. You see it also here in open existing projects. I personally think instead of having something like open an existing project, having maybe similar to Slack, some kind of sidebar where you just see maybe your projects, or a header. I don't know, like we need some kind of basic navigational concept. I personally think, and we also discussed this 2 weeks ago in the CLI meeting with the other participants, that having some sidebar navigation where you see maybe your projects would also make sense. In that case, how the design might look like, we don't know. We have some ideas. Right now, the setup, I think, Rishabh, you can just like in 30 seconds and then you can take over, is done with Preact. But I mean, one could also think about using just Material UI at the beginning and then move on. But that's technical details. Right now, I think there are not many decisions made on the front-end side for the application. Yeah. That's from my side regarding onboarding, and maybe Rishabh, now you can just take over from more like from your point, and especially the technical things you did already.
Okay. So first thing I want to discuss about init. So what we want is that first we question the user about that, and then we integrate the part that we saw, that the .config website or something else. For the init part, I want asking all of you which are present.
Sorry, I didn't fully get the question. Are you asking what should be visible in the front end?
No, I'm asking that first we should ask question while creating new project, or just so the interface that .config website has.
Well, that's a valid point. Maybe to discuss with everyone, maybe even in the issue, like pinging maybe also other people from the Webpack team. But I think that's something we can do easily today.
Yes.
Like just pinging people and asking for their feedback if they see this as a better way, like showing this, or asking questionnaires. I personally would prefer questionnaires, I think, because they are easier to get for especially new developers, considering them as the customer on that side. Because if you are more experienced with Webpack, most likely you know what you need, or you already have some config somewhere and you're just changing small parts of your configs So you're iterating on that often, what I see, versus, yeah.
What I think is that first we should implement that chatting part with the server, and then for modification of config, we can implement this config type of thing. Maybe that makes sense. Or
The chat part, I'm not sure. Like it's almost equivalent to having CLI asking you questions. It's like a fancier way of asking questions. The chat part is just like kind of replication of what we already have in CLI. So not sure how largely that would improve the user experience. And also we'll need to fix a scope on how many things like we are going to do in terms of like how much flexible your Webpack config can be, because like the more properties or the more support you have, it increases cases exponentially, because there could be a lot of combinations which could be valid, which could not be valid. So again, there is a very important part which is validating the config, displaying the right message to the user, like what exactly is wrong, which specific part of your config is wrong, which property you need to fix, and all that. With again, valid reasonings that why this part is failing. Like there could be some issue with combination of two values, like uh, so that could also like there could be multiple cases. So you just need to like show proper error messages where exactly he needs to fix and all that. So that is also something I would say is very critical to the user experience.
yes, you are right. But here I want to discuss about that init and functionality. So first we need a base on UI so that we can implement all these features that you were saying.
Right.
Like what? Hello?
Uh,
Hello?
yeah,
It's fine, you can move on. Someone
Okay.
had a phone call on the
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
So so you're asking about the initial part. So even I'm not sure at this point. Like we need to maybe experiment with some designs just to get a feel of what it could be. Uh, But at this point, I'm not sure like which exact approach should be fine. But at least the chatting part, I'm not sure. Like chatting part is kind of having it same as the way it was in CLI.
Yeah.
Uh,
So
it's just
here
a
I
fancy. This is like and see at the end we need to like keep this thing in mind that Webpack is going to be used by developers. Like at the end, like it's not going to be used by any non-techie people, that you need to be very fancy, in things that you need to do.
Dhruv,
So it's just about
Dhruv,
like yeah,
sorry to interrupt here, but
yeah,
the whole point of having an UI here is like everybody should be capable of understanding all the things.
yeah, right,
They're focusing on developers. I'm afraid that might not work now. But I think we will start with a very simple approach of what we have initially had, particularly in this screen. So
hmm,
we will start with this stuff, and then probably we can implement the questionnaires inside that stuff. Probably we can say we can like infer the entire configuration and say like, oh, hey, you can add this functionality. You want to add it or not? You can use this functionality. You want to use it or not? We can add that kind of things later. But asking
right,
from an UI, I think it will be too early to call now. But we just go ahead with whatever we have and show a visual representation of whatever we need to show. I
right, right, I agree.
yes.
Yeah,
So
so
what I was
like,
saying,
I would say like we can start creating designs, some different types of designs to just understand. But I would say before moving ahead, like we'll need either a designer or someone will need to create a design to get inspiration of what it is going to be like.
that makes sense, and also the user flow, that how the user will be interacted with our UI.
Right.
Um,
I was also going through what Vue.js has done. So, Ferit, can you just open Vue.js UI?
Yeah, just a second. I think like Jaziel wants to say something.
oh,
Just
yeah.
to
Oh,
moderate
right.
in here.
I was
Sure.
gonna point out that someone had I forget who said it, but they had a good point about like trying to understand who's going to be using it. So is there any way that we can get feedback from people that use Webpack to see kind of what they would expect out of something like this, and whether or not, like, kind of find out who's going to be using it, whether it's going to be very technical people or people that aren't as technical, to try to figure out what the best approach for the UI would be? Like maybe like reaching out to people on Twitter or something like that. I'm not sure.
Yeah, that's something we did, especially I think Evan, which is not here right now, he did for quite some time talking to people. Okay. As far as I know, from his point of view, there is really people having the need, especially now with, I think also with Vue.js pushing a bit on that direction, the expectation from developers on any kind changes a bit. And regarding Webpack, there's always, like, if you go on Twitter, even people who worked in frontend or JavaScript for like years, there are many people still complaining about, why do I need to do X and Y and Z? Why can't it be super simple? Why do I have 20 different Webpack configuration files for these and stuff like that? Yeah. So there is a need, but I agree that... Sorry, just move on.
So our main focus is on beginners. What I think. So
yeah, so I would say we don't have a easy way to say this is just the this is the customer basically we want to reach out. We just have this big developer, which might be someone studying computer science and wanting to get hands dirty on Webpack and front-end stuff, to even senior people who moved from old stacks like Grunt and Gulp, and now they want to catch up with Webpack. There are still many people doing that. So it's a variety of users, but they all have one thing in common. They don't know maybe anything about Webpack. Even if they have a tech background, Webpack is still something different than maybe what you get in computer science.
Right.
I think one thing that we can do is maybe have just fetch bits of information from documentation itself, and just around properties we can have like small popovers or something which shows maybe examples or what that property does, what are options other and all that stuff. So, and also another thing is we should focus on the Webpack config itself. Like the design, like in design there was like list of projects. So that is not the problem that we are trying to solve. Like we are not trying to be a code file explorer kind of thing. We that is something that code explorers like VS Code does by creating workspaces and all that. We need to focus on the Webpack config part. What things can be done with the config, how you can present the config, how you can create the config. So that is something I see in Vue's UI as well. They have a focus on the view part. They are not trying to be a file explorer, like showing list of projects that you have in your directory and all that. So that I'm not sure if it makes sense for Webpack UI at least. It could be a good use case for File Explorer and Code Explorers, definitely, but not sure if it fits for the Webpack CLI UI part.
Just
I don't know exactly. But last time when I used Vue CLI, they have a list of all projects.
So that is like if you are in a root folder, then it lists all that projects, or does it analyze all the projects that you have in your computer, or what kind of like, or is it just to like, does it have like list of projects in which sense? Like it's just like selecting the first project where it is on like where exactly your folder is, or how is it?
When we run the command Vue UI, so it is nowhere related to the in which folder we run that command. It is global. So we have to select. So we have to select the project which we want to work on create new project, whose directory we also have to give as an input to Vue UI.
So like they take an initial directory where your code lives, and then
no, nothing. They are just a global sort of thing, you can say. It is nowhere related to where we run that Vue UI command.
So they analyze like all the Vue projects kind of that you have in your system. You mean that?
That we previously created with Vue UI. So that's
So just to interrupt you both, I just did a quick check.
I
So
haven't
there
used
is,
it.
for example,
yeah.
if you check out, there's a screen on their guide, like CLI guide, just one screen regarding create a new project. And here you see something like users Evan research, like here presets features configuration. And I just searched a bit more, like Auth0 has a nice blog post I can share later. And they go more like, they say it's also more about project management. Like here you have projects you can create, you can import stuff. So it's really more than just opening, like creating. Here you can see you can create stuff. So for me, it really looks like they have some kind of project management. Oh, here's even, maybe you can see like that. GUI.
Yeah.
Right. So according to that, you can create projects, which is what you said. So, I mean, I personally think some basics, like I also wrote that on the issue, I do believe some basic management is necessary, because at one point, if you're pushing the UI, the GUI for the CLI, people will start using that more frequently. And then this will be like the natural, like the next need would be, hey, I have 5 projects created with the GUI, but I cannot really manage them. Can't switch and go back and forth. It would mean more like, okay, I have to go to each folder and run that manually, which should be not the case. You should just have one instance and it should know where all the projects are. Like they have this import functionality you see, which I most likely think is, I guess, about, yeah. Oh, interesting. Like there is a GIF creating new folder. So they have really basic project management here.
They do very good, I would say.
Yeah. So, I mean, we can aim for that, but before we aim for that, because the people at Vue.js, they did a really great job on that side. So before we try to maybe copy all their stuff, I would just really say we should focus on getting init into the UI. Maybe not even focusing on project management for now, because I think it's easy to have something like, okay, our init command is now in the UI, the CLI UI, like the GUI of the Webpack CLI. And then we could easier reach out to people and say, hey, look, this is how we think it could be a value for the community. And then we can just ask everyone and say, hey, look, that's a cool thing. We can ask Sean and all the others, Sokra, and say, hey, could you share in your communities that thing, get early feedback? So I think it's easier to have something like the init and then ask people on that compared to just going out doing market research.
Like you mean to focus first on the config part and then eventually you can come back to the project management part. Because the main use case, that we need to focus on is the config part, like how we can make it easier to like create the config, the init part as the subside again. So that is something that we can focus on in the first phase, I would say.
I think that makes more sense. Also for the Google Summer of Code, the clear focus should be to have that init done with a nice UI, or not even nice, just with some UI. It doesn't need to be perfect. No one of us is a designer. We are trying to get some designers to give us really feedback, but it's also a bit tricky for them to understand the context here, because as a non-technical person, understanding Webpack and how the UI should look like. So maybe just checking out Vue.js UI and the .config, and even like going their approach makes sense as a first iteration. I mean, design, we can always move on and move forward. So
what I was thinking that we can do, we can ask question with the user, and when the user answers the question, the present state of the R config can be shown to the user. That this can be implemented as the code I have made till now. So if that is that all you want, that this can be done.
Hey Rishabh, is it possible to like create a mock-up or something? Maybe just a sketch or in Balasamic or in whatever you can, just to understand what kind of experience that would result into.
So you can imagine a part. User clicks on create new project, then on the left side of the screen there will be a chatting interface, and on the right side user can see its Webpack config. And as in the process, the user answers the question, and
So you mean it would be
and we
similar to the dot config part, but instead of the options that they have, there will be
we will
kind
ask
of chat.
questions. Yes, yes. We will ask question instead of giving that buttons.
Okay. Hmm.
This can be implemented.
Yeah,
I would say in that part, why not? We can just move on. For the Google Summer of Code on that side, if you already have something which you think can be done fast, I mean, this thing can be really big. We can go really crazy from project management like Vue.js did. But for getting early feedback, having something, even if it's not from our side, we can even tell people like it's not done. It's just a work in progress. We can even get feedback from the Vue.js people and ask them what they think, how they would expect that from the Webpack perspective. Why not? I mean, they are quite open. So I think getting feedback is not the problem, but we just need to start with something. And we also have to make a decision if, for example, the design from Rishabh is fine to start, like the initial starting page. Yes. But, well, I mean, this meeting is normally planned for just 1 hour, kind of like until 7 p.m. So instead of, we had already quite a nice discussion. I would more like ask, do anyone else has general questions about that? Maybe you didn't understood what's going on here. If not, I would ask something more specific to Rishabh, which is about, where is it? It's about this one pull request, because Evan asked me to check in what the init endpoint of the UI server, what the state right now is. So it's already going directly into the functionality here. And if we can soon get that merged.
Okay, this PRS was from Laksh, and he did that by using a child process implementation. So, which we later discarded, and we are trying to solve it programmatically. So there is another PR from my side, which is open currently. So there is an implementation.
Okay, so this one we can basically close. Is that what you want? What I understand from that? Because they're both about the init endpoint?
Yes.
Okay.
For this part, I have implemented that questioning part from the server. But there we need a intermediate mapper with the client side. So for that, Renato X, I don't know what his name is, was trying to solve that on his own. So the questioning part is done. Questioning part is done. There I have implemented that, and also the client side TCP class has been implemented in another PR, which is must. So yes.
So basically you already have most of the stuff in place for the initial questionnaire, like for the questionnaire side.
Yes.
It's about the design.
And the questioning part is very much similar as we write in CLI, promise-based API we have. Right? We, like in an human,
But that's cool, because then we can, like, the scope of the Google Summer of Code could be then a bit more broad regarding adding more features and functionalities based on community feedback.
Yes.
But okay, so do you know then currently the state of it, right? Like, is there something missing? When do you think, like you said, Renato wants to check out some stuff?
Yes, he was developing that intermediate mapper. So we will be giving an inquirer question to the client part, which it will process and generate an component which match to that question to the client. So that mapper was Renato X was working on that. Yes, so that's
it's okay. So we need to check in with Renato regarding if it's done from his perspective. Okay.
Otherwise, I will implement.
Yeah, so let me check in after that meeting and then also see regarding how his feedback is, and based on that you can either move on your own then, or catch up on his work, or maybe he's just needs a couple of days and then he's done. Yeah, because and that's right now something. Yeah,
that Preact setup is there for you.
Yeah, yeah, because I think when this one is there, we can hopefully quickly start then on the UI part. I will talk with Evan regarding getting feedback from other people and other companies. He mentioned that he might reach out to other people. Yeah. Otherwise, I personally think it should not block us too much. Instead of waiting too long, we can, like, in the next meeting or even earlier, we can have like some ad hoc meeting and then just mock up around and then use Material UI as the starting point, or some other, I don't know, Bootstrap or Foundation or something, and then just start based on some mocks or based on the design mock you had. Because I really think if we can move fast on the initial init thing, the functionalities here, then we can get feedback and then really focus on what the community wants or what people really think it should have. And then it will be, I think, much easier to discuss all these details about, do we need project management and how much, or maybe people don't really need that. They need more like maybe, I don't know, Webpack config validation and other stuff. So yeah, so that's cool. I would check with Renato then.
And
you will anyway.
For the current state, I haven't. For the current state, I have written a comment in an issue for endpoints. There, anyone can check. So, what's the current state of the project?
You have an issue?
Endpoints for different one.
Okay. Yeah, that's good. Okay.
And also
there is
also an latest issue. There I have drawn some features that I want in UI. So there we can discuss too, if we want that features list for Webpack UI.
That's also pretty good. Yeah. Well, I would read that and give comments later, but I would also invite everyone in this Hangout right now that you can just go to this tag, the UI tag, the label, and just comment, give your feedback. If you know maybe a designer, pitch that to the designer. Maybe they have an idea. Yeah, that's basically it from the Webpack UI side. If there are questions related to that, I would use just a couple of minutes to discuss a bit about the general documentation documentation task we have. And because some of you are also interested on that. It's not directed to Google Summer of Code. So if someone wants to leave now because you have other things to do, it's totally fine. You don't need to be the whole hangout. So I will move on now with the documentation part. And it's basically many things, but there are some major things. So one thing is, when you go to the project, you will see that in packages, for example, all the commands, they are like the packages here. So we have a global here, like a README, and then each of them, they have some small READMEs on their own. On top of that, our own README has some input, and inside the project, there are some stuff like, for example, there is a migrate documentation, giving some examples, more details, or like scaffolding. We have scaffolding functionality. So all in all, there is already a lot documented inside the project in Markdown files, but in so many different places that the idea is really to get them all somehow filtered into Webpack.js, because right now most of the things we have here, they are not documented there. I don't know where exactly we should put that, but that's also one of the tasks. Figure out where we can put that, and then start documenting Webpack CLI and the features on Webpack.js, and then slowly adding all the content we have here.
Event started and PR on webpackjs.org.
Yeah, I know.
It
but I
is
don't know
on a
if
hang right now.
Yeah. I don't know about that. He didn't share with me, so I guess maybe he started, but he never moved on, or he's just in the middle. And then the second thing is, like, this is the general thing, and there is something special, like in detail, which is basically the overall topic about Webpack scaffold. Exactly. But this, I think right now, oh, that's cool. Someone adds the scaffolding in it. So this is surprising. No one told me about that. So there is even something for the scaffolding there, but the rest is not documented. So that's something we still need to do. And that one is even open. So yeah, that's it from the documentation side, I would say. It's really about getting all the information we have in the repository into webpack.js. The missing parts.
Who can we talk to for more details on like what the next steps are for that? Like for that transition, moving it over to webpack.js.org.
Regarding who is like maintaining the documentation at all, like generally, or is it more like which should I start first?
Or yeah, like where can we get started with it? Or should we make like an issue to track this or something like that?
Yeah, basically we have this one, which is about, no, I think for webpack.js, we don't have a dedicated issue. I will start with that. So I will create a dedicated issue for that, because we have something like a thread, like summarizing all of them here.
Okay, gotcha. Perfect.
Exactly, but maybe it makes sense to split them up so we can easier discuss and track them. Yeah, but technically it's right now for the documentation, you can ping me or Drufdude or Evan. Yeah, because I'm trying to start this documentation process, but also some knowledge is often with the developers to develop the feature. So that's sometimes a bit tricky. But let me create like this one. The 247 is basically the starting point where you can start discussing and asking questions. And I or Evan, we will just pick up.
Okay, cool.
Exactly.
So 247.
Yeah. So yeah, that's it from my side for today. If someone has something else, I will try to answer that, or Drufdut. I don't know the details of the Google Summer of Code. For that, I would just point you to either Evan, which is not here today, but reach out via Twitter, or Drufdut, because he was participating the last time as a Google Summer of Code participant. And yeah, thanks for being here, joining the Hangout.
Yep.
Cool.
Just guys, just try to contribute in any way. If you can, just try to get comfortable around the code base. Try to understand on a high level what the CLI is doing. Just try to get a hang of it, and then start diving into things that you need to work on. There are also many open issues other than this, just to get comfortable around the code base. And again, we are always there to help you guys. So just ping us on any of the GitHub issues, or just email me or Evan, anyone. So just start investing your time into what part of the code finds or you find it interesting. So yeah, do you guys have any questions or anything?
I think I'm good.
Yep,
Okay.
I'm already seeing Shub's contribution, so he's going really good with what he has been coming up with. It. So that is really good. Okay, awesome. So I think we'll
Cool.
do the next meet, if not wrong, next week, I guess.
Normally we
Right?
do bi-weekly, so it would be in 2 weeks.
Yeah, bi-weekly.
But if
Sure.
there is a high need that we should maybe have a quick chat also next Tuesday. So yeah, so generally right now we are trying to set up bi-weekly meetings.
Okay, cool.
So today was one, and in 2 weeks there is another one. Reach out to me or Drufdut or someone from the Webpack CLI team, so I can also add you to the calendar. So there's a Google Calendar, so you don't really need to always remember that. It's always at the same time, 6 to 7 p.m. Berlin time, so Central European time. Because in like 2 months ago we did a doodle and it was almost impossible to get everyone on the same time. So this one right now was the best we had, because Evan is in Europe, I'm in Europe, and somehow with our Indian contributors it's kind of fitting. And yeah, that's it. Thanks for being here, and I hope we can have a nice discussion in 2 weeks. And if there is anything, feel free to reach out on Twitter or on the GitHub issues.
Yep.
Great. Thank you so much for
Awesome, guys.
Yeah.
Thanks. That was very useful for me.
Yep.
Okay, cool. So
Okay.
see you
Bye,
all.
guys.
y'all. Bye.
Bye, guys.